This is episode 7. Man, I got a good one for you guys. First, I want to start off by thanking everybody, all the feedback, all the love I got from episode 6, Life After Baseball with Cody Lingham. That was amazing. I love the feedback I got. I'm glad y'all enjoyed that episode. Today, I have another special guest, Gabriel Hannes. I hope I said his last name right. This is The Power of Parenting. He is let's see, Gabriel Hannes is a published author. He has a book out right now called This Is Parenting. He's working on his second book. He's also a child care specialist and a small business owner at Massive Video LLC. Let's get him in here and let's get it started. Right now. What's up, brother?
What's going on, King? How you doing?
Hey, another day. How's your day going?
It's going pretty good. I can't complain. I'm alive.
That's good. That's what's up. Man, I just want to say, man, I really appreciate you coming on this episode. I'm gonna give everybody a little backstory. So I have a group in Facebook called the Grey Room, GREY, and someone in the group posted a video that you posted on TikTok, and it was of a kid getting his I don't know if he had dreads or just long hair and going crazy in the barbershop getting his hair cut for disciplinary reasons. And in my group, that post blew up, got a lot of feedback, and that's when I reached out to Gabriel on TikTok, shot him an email, let him know who I was. Even though I don't agree on what he said with that video, he has a lot of amazing points that I do agree with. I just had a situation with my son this weekend. I reached out to him, and he gave me a bunch of amazing points on how to deal with the situation. And so I think this is an episode everyone can learn from. So what's up? Tell everybody where you from, Gabriel.
I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Atlanta. But unfortunately, now I reside in Florida, Central Florida specifically.
Central Florida. I used to live in Tampa. I love it out there.
I was just in Tampa yesterday.
Oh, awesome. All right, so let's get started. Question 1. Can you tell us your backstory and why you decided to become a child care professional?
So funny story about that. What had happened was I was actually homeless at the time, right? And I needed a job desperately. And the first job I got out of being homeless was working for Disney as a performer. But the second job I got out of homelessness was a teacher at my church's private school. So I was their head chaplain / Bible teacher. I love what I did. I love the kids. The kids loved me. The kids were always hanging around me. The kids always wanted to come to my classroom. They always told me their like personal problems and all this kind of stuff. And it was just always a good vibe. And I always worked with kids. I worked with kids my whole life, be it like family, friends, babysitting, stuff like that. But this is when I first started stepping into a professional role. After I was let go from that position and the school shut down, I still needed a job. And there was a sense of urgency for me to do this one job that my friend told me about. He was a behavior assistant and he was making like 15 an hour at the time, which is about what I was making right before I was homeless. And I was like, okay, that's cool. That'll be something I can do. I love kids, blah, blah, blah. Didn't really know what to expect. I went in to become a behavior assistant, but they were like, hey, we're actually trying to phase out that position. So you want to take this extra training to become a registered behavioral technician. I was like, sure, why not? Took the class, passed my competency evaluation, sat for the actual test, passed the test first try, got my first kid. My first kid was a nonverbal 5-year-old autistic boy. Changed my whole life. Fell in love with the kid. The kid was the most amazing little boy I'd ever seen in my life. I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. From there on, it was just that. It was working with him. It was working with a whole bunch of other different kids. Some were more aggressive than others, but all of the kids were like the most loving and the sweetest kids that you can ever imagine. And I got a chance to work with them. So ever since then, it's just been going up from there. I went to school for my undergrad in exceptional student education, graduated. Now I'm a middle school ESC teacher, and that's what I do.
Man, that's awesome, man. So much respect to you. Isn't it amazing how at your darkest times you found your calling?
Yes, sir.
Isn't that amazing?
Because I was going to school I was going to school initially for biomedical sciences. Like I had been in school 8 years for something completely unrelated. And yeah, just like that, it switched overnight.
That's awesome, man. That is so awesome. So you
Yeah,
mentioned you got your degree. Where did you get? What college you get your degree from?
I went to Daytona State College.
Shout out to Daytona State College. Awesome. How'd you like it there?
I loved it. I was there for about a decade. um, like I said, I went to school initially for biomedical sciences. I would have graduated a long time ago, but switched my major. Was homeless. A lot of stuff happened, but I finally got it. I actually graduated this past December. So it's been an uphill climb, but it was a trick that I'm glad I made. So
Awesome. All right. So my next question is, like when kids act up, when they're out of control, whatever, parents be like, I'm gonna talk to my kid. Why do you think it's important for parents to actually listen to what the kids have to say instead of just getting mad and spanking them and yelling and just not caring what they have to say? Why is it so important that we must hear our kids out?
so your kids are going to be adults at some point. And everybody talks about how they don't want their kids to be weak and they want to raise strong children. I'm sorry, my dog is like
Are you
climbing
good?
literally all over me. Um,
I
you don't
understand. I'm trying to ignore my daughter right now. I get it.
right. So the goal isn't to raise little servants. The goal isn't to raise little slaves. The goal isn't to raise people who just obey you just because they want to obey you. The goal is to raise fully functional adults that have the ability to stand up for themselves and communicate effectively. They can't do that if you're not teaching them that. Hold on just a second. Prince?
Man, it's gonna be a good show, guys. It's gonna be a real good show. For everyone tuning in, this is for me too. You guys, this is definitely for me. I'm not saying I'm a perfect parent because I'm far from a perfect parent. Um, I want this education that you guys are getting. That's why I strongly believe. I really wanted him on the show because I strongly believe he has a lot to offer for all of us. All of us as parents. Like I just said in the beginning of the show, I just had a situation with my son, and I gave him a call to give his input. You know what I mean? So I think this is very important. All right, we got your back.
Sorry about that. He's a husky and he demands attention all the time. Uh,
Yeah.
but what was I? Yes, when you're creating a child, you're raising them to be fully functional adults. If you're raising your child to not be able to have a voice to advocate for themselves at home where they're comfortable with you, they're not going to do that in the real world. They're not going to know how to effectively communicate what their needs are, what their wants are, what their expectations are. And there are a lot of times where as parents, you will make mistakes and your child will get in trouble for something that they may or may not have actually done. This isn't to say that they always get away with stuff or that they're going to try to get away with stuff, but it is to say that you should be raising your child to advocate for themselves because you could be wrong. There are times as me as a teacher, I've gotten kids in trouble and then they're like, well, no, I didn't actually do it. And then I start to really like do some deductive reasoning and be like, okay, no, he actually did do that. And then I go back, yo, I'm so sorry, dude. Like that was me that slipped up. I'm taking full responsibility. Let me call your parents. Let me talk to administration and get this reversed. And there's nothing wrong with it. You also need to let your kids know that you're human. You make mistakes. You're not perfect. You're not strong all the time. That's fine. But can you communicate that? Can you let your child communicate that? If you're not doing that, you're not learning how your child thinks. You're not understanding their mindset. They're not going to want to communicate with you, especially when they become like teenagers. They ain't going to want to talk to you because you've made a habit of not listening to them anyway. So when it comes down to something that they should talk to you about, like being sexually active or doing narcotics or something like that, they're not going to come to you when they get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? They're going to think that they're not going to be heard anyway. So you want to leave that door of communication open to your child at all times, not just because they need to self-advocate, but also for their safety. You know what I'm saying? Because like if somebody touches your child inappropriately or is abusing your child and they don't feel safe to come to you, that's going to continue that line of abuse. So instead of I tell people all the time, instead like let your children say something. You can be upset, but go handle that off to the side. then come back without that judgment and say, okay, as a parent, blah, 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 blah. I hear what you're saying. I love what you're saying. Blah, blah, blah. I'm still the authority. My job is to raise you and to protect you. This is how we're going to do it from here.
You know, I definitely agree with that. So like with my situation this past weekend, like we
Also,
talked
this
about
is tea.
nah, you good. Like we talked about earlier, you know, with my son's situation this past weekend, it's like when his mom told me what happened, I just seen red, and I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to put my hands on him. Then I had to sit back and think, you know what I mean? Like, what is that gonna accomplish? You know, like I told you, I sat down and talked to him for a few hours, and not just talk to him, I let him know, like, whatever you feel like you need to say to me while we're having this conversation, feel free to speak. Because my thing is, I want my kids, like you said, be able to come to me. I want my kids to be able to talk to me about anything. I don't care. It could be the worst thing in the world. I want them to be comfortable enough to come to me and know they won't get in trouble about it. So that's what I was explaining to my son. Here's a chance for you to tell me what's going on internally. Why are you acting the way you acting? You know, and like I told him, regardless of what it is, even if I don't like your response, I'm telling you right now, you will not be in trouble. Because I know as a kid, for me, I was bad. I deserved every ass whooping. I'm not gonna lie, I know it. But in saying that, I would be told, well, just tell us the truth, tell us this, blah, blah, you won't get in trouble. And then I would get in trouble. You know what I mean? So on top of that, I want to tell everybody, it's okay to raise your kids differently from the way your parents raised you. It took me probably 10 years ago when one of my best friends told me that. He was like, Jay, just because your parents did it this way, that don't mean you have to. You know, and I want everybody to think about that. But yeah, like once I sat him down, he was a little iffy, you know, and then once we finally got into it, he opened up a little bit. And like I said, thanks to you. Like I said, once me and you, you know, contacted each other and linked up, it's like I've been thinking a lot about my parenting skills and changing some things about it. You know what I mean? I could be man enough I'm not perfect, you know what I mean? And I could be man enough to be like, yes, I came to this grown man right here and he gave me some input and I actually listened. Because another problem we had, especially with grown men, they don't want to hear another grown man's opinion, especially about their kids. But people don't realize we all need each other. We're a village and we all need each other. Like we was told as kids, it takes a village to raise a kid. As adults, we still need help. It still takes a village. You know what I mean?
100%. 100%.
Question 4. For the parents with anger issues, what advice would you give them?
Oh, this is a good one. This is good. Okay. A lot of people wouldn't believe this, but I guarantee you, anything that you've experienced your child do, I had probably experienced worse that a kid has done to me. Like, y'all probably just deal with disrespect or your kid doing something out in the street. Listen, I've had my lock pulled out. I've been kicked. I've been spit on. I've been bitten. You ever been like pimp slapped by a little kid, by like a 5-year-old, like backhanded? Like, it's emasculating. Like this little boy caught all the way back and just laid me out. I've been headbutted by a little kid. Kids have tried to pee on me. I've been through the ringer. Anything that an adult or a parent can say, I have been there. I get angry. I am from the hood. Like I'm from the Atlanta hood where we don't even talk much. We just go and start swinging. That's it.
Yeah.
And what you have to realize is all of the triggers that you feel from your kids is a trauma response. Like, you really got to think about it. Why are you so triggered by a little kid who has no power, who has no authority, is probably half your height? Why are you triggered by your kid? You're triggered by your kid because somewhere in your past, you went through a scenario where you had to respond in fear, or trauma was put on you. Trauma was inflicted on you, and you had to respond with your amygdala out of survival. And because you stopped developing in that area, you revert back to that every time something similar happens. So anytime you don't feel heard and you have to repeat yourself more than once, your brain is saying, nobody heard me when I was a kid, and that made me upset, but I wasn't able to lash out. Or you did lash out. And now as an adult, when you have to tell your child something over and over again, then that is also to your brain, nobody's listening to me. I need to lash out. I need to take control. And so you want to have control over this child who is completely autonomous and does not have a full comprehension or understanding of even words. And even though we can be like in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, kids still aren't at that same level of comprehension verbally yet. You're yelling at them. You're getting angry with them. You're wanting to put your hands on them. It's all a trauma response. So the best thing to do when you have a trauma response, when you find yourself getting angry with your child for being a child, by the way, you have to, one, figure out why you're triggered. Second, you need to get calm. If your child is in the middle of a tantrum, I'm good for this. I will let that child tantrum right there. And I will calm myself down because I can't be of no use to this child. I cannot help this child. I'm down until I'm calm. For me, it's as simple as taking a deep breath. I'll just, and I'm good. For other people, you might need to walk away, take a breath for a few minutes. You might need to go smoke a cigarette. I don't recommend it, but if that's what you do that. If you got a drink, go ahead and drink. You have to do something to get yourself to a level of calm. Meditation, deep breathing, all of those are good. When you get to that level of calm, go back and address the situation. But you need to do it calm when you're not on that continuum of arousal where your amygdala is taking control of everything. Because when your amygdala is in control, you're only focused on yourself. You're not going to help your child. You're going to focus on what your needs are in that moment. Focus on what that child's needs are in that moment. You can only do that when you think with your frontal cortex. Also go to therapy. Deal with that trauma. A lot of people say, I ain't got no trauma. My parents just whooped my behind. No. Let me tell you something. When you got your butt whooped multiple times, your brain, whether you are conscious of it or not, your brain is registering that as trauma. And your brain is going to rewire itself. And it's going to come back up in other situations of high stress, where you're going to be stuck in a survival loop, where you're going to continue to get mad about things that you shouldn't really get mad about, because that's what you've been conditioned and trained to do. And so when you get into those environments again, you're going to naturally lash out. Go deal with that trauma. Go deal with the root of that. When you've dealt with the root and you kill the tree from the root, the tree can't come back. That means the behavior is going to change completely.
No.
That's what I would say to parents.
Awesome. Let's see. Do you think it's ever acceptable to put your hands on your kid?
No.
And in saying that, let's run that question with that video at the barbershop. Why do you think? All right, so man, I'm gonna word this because that video it irks my. I'm getting chilled just talking about it. That video irks my nerves. With the tantrum that kid was throwing. Me personally, like I told you before, I felt like he needed his ass whooped. How would you have handled that situation? Because I just feel like as a parent, like when we was young, your parents don't touch nothing when we go in the store, right? Why would you think the kid felt so comfortable to act out and the way he did it and throw that major tantrum?
So you talking about the kid who got his locks cut, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so before I answer that question, I want to pose a thought for everybody. That little boy is black, right?
Mm-hmm.
That little boy's ancestors were slaves, right? They cut our hair. Back in Africa, our hair determined where we were from. We used our hair as a form of identity expression. So if you were from a certain tribe or village, your hair looked a certain way. It was very ornate. We cut it in different shapes, patterns, braids, locks, all these different things. And they let us know who we were and where we were from. Matter of fact, some people used to take their ancestors' hair and put them into their locks, put them into their hair. And it was a sign of who their families were. And it could be generations and generations and generations in your hair. It was a form of identity. And now we look at it and we're like, oh, he's just getting a fashionable fatty hairstyle. Yes and no. Why do you think it's a fad? Why do you think he got it? Of course, he can get it because a rapper did it. But even if you follow it back, our hair is very important to us. I'm Afro-Indigenous, so both sides of my family hair is important. I always wanted to have long hair. When I saw that video, I could feel like them clippers were cutting my hair. It was that deep a thing. So to this boy who's getting his hair cut, imagine how it felt being him in that moment. His locks are pretty long, so he probably had his locks for maybe like a couple years now that he put time and energy and dedication into. They are landmarks to different events in your life, and you just cut it off. You cut it off because of an impulsive decision that a child made. Children are naturally impulsive. They're going to get in trouble. They're going to be disrespectful. They're going to talk back because they're designed to. They're designed to be selfish. They're designed to test your boundaries. That's what they are designed to do. And so you cut his hair thinking that's going to remedy the situation. But in the same way that cutting a slave's hair only made them docile for a time, all it did was just strip them of their identity in that moment. He's still going to go back to doing what he was going to do because you never taught him anything. You just punished him with something that doesn't even correlate to the crime in general. Apparently, he got in trouble at school or something like that. Like either he was failing classes or he got in trouble for, like, I guess, fighting or something. In both of those examples, what is cutting his hair going to do? Cutting his hair isn't going to teach him how to study. Cutting his hair isn't going to get his grades up. If he has a learning disability, that damn sure ain't going to do nothing because you just cutting his hair isn't going to do nothing. It's not going to solve that. The solution has to be rooted in the actual problem. You know what I'm saying? Like if your child is not doing well in school, sit with him and make sure he does his work. Give him supplemental instruction after school. Talk to the teacher, see if y'all can come up with a plan. I do IEP meetings. That's literally my job. I work with kids who have learning disabilities to get them the resources they need to be successful in the class. As far as literally reading the directions and the answers for them, there's no excuse, except you don't know the skills yet. On the converse side, if your child is doing something where he's acting out in class, he's being a disruption and stuff like that, cutting his hair still isn't going to do anything because now he's going to be a disruption for a different reason. If he wasn't fighting, he's probably going to fight now because he has kids who are making fun of him and they're probably going to try to fight him. He's going to have to fight him or fight them. In either regard, he's not doing nothing. And then in the moment when he's so terrified of getting his hair cut, I'm still not going to do nothing to him because he don't want his hair cut. It's the same. Like if somebody came up to you and tried to cut your beard, like say for instance, you got in trouble at work, right? And they're trying to write you up and they start trying to cut your beard. Right, you finna be 86 high, right? You're not finna just let them cut your hair, right?
Yeah.
So we have to think about kids with that same level of autonomy. To kids, they don't have much control and power in their life. And so when they have the opportunity to express themselves apart from their parents, you just took that away from them because you didn't have the skills to help them. That's not fair. That's not right. But we think it is under the guise of this is discipline. But we have to start asking ourselves, is it discipline or is it just a punishment? And if it's a punishment, how many times, and for you, I'm sure you can resonate with this, how many people were you locked up with that got locked up again for the same thing?
Man,
because they were never.
You know what's crazy? You said that because at the end of my stint, I'm probably got a month left, about to get out, and the dude that was in there before me, he ended up coming back, and he looks to me. Everyone called me New York. I'm down south. Everybody called me New York. He's like, "Yo, New York, you back?" No, I'm not back, but you are. You know what I mean? Like for the same thing. You know what I mean? So yes, I definitely understand it.
Give me just a second. I need to plug up my phone because my phone is dying. But while I do that, I want to ask a question. What was he locked up for? What did he go back to doing?
Stealing. He was stealing cars.
He was stealing cars. Do you know why he was stealing cars?
No, I don't.
More than likely, it was because he either needed money and he found that to be a quick way to do it, or he grew up in situations. Because once you get a felony, right, you get something like I have a friend who just actually got out of prison, and it was hard for him to get a job. And he went to jail. He didn't do anything that bad. Well, I can't say it wasn't that bad. It was pretty bad, but Georgia doesn't have basically he got in trouble with the law. It wasn't anything. The judge didn't even want to sentence him. It was an accident, whatever like that. But he went to prison. He got this felony charge. He couldn't get a job when he came out that easily. And he's leading in his field. He's in medical research. This dude can stick a needle in you. You will not feel it. He is great at his job. Never had any complaints. Never been in trouble with the law before until this situation. It was hard for him to get a job. So imagine your homie. He gets out. He has a felony on his case. Grand Theft Auto. Where's he going to get a job?
Mm-hmm. I'm actually glad you touched on that. So for all the fathers out there, all the grown men out there, if you have been to prison and you just came home, they do have a program called the Welcome Back program. And you go to that program, it's probably different in different states. You probably got a different name in different states. But basically what this program is for, they run down jobs for you guys. Big piece of paper, and they give you a form, like a card, and basically you're a tax write-off. Like you want to be a plumber, you go apply for the job. They give you an interview, you give them your background, and you tell them, look, I know I'm a felon, and you might not want to hire me, but here's this card. If you hire me, that's basically, like I said, you're a tax write-off. They write you off on their taxes for giving you a chance. You know what I mean? So for all the fellas out there, look that if you're having a problem finding a job, definitely look into that. That will help.
I love that. But now going back into the root of it, he can't get a job. He got to go back to doing the same thing he knows. And the thing he knows is taking cars. Yeah. I had a friend who was a lieutenant for the GDs, and the same thing was happening where he started selling when he was like 13 because he had to put food on the table for his siblings because daddy's in jail. His mama's strung out. He got caught up with selling. He had to get protection, so he joined the GD, Folk Nation, and then he gets charges. He gets out. He caught a first degree case. He has to go right. He gets out from that first degree case, and he goes right back in for doing the same thing that he did to get in there, except he was selling with the intent to distribute. So it's a cycle that's repeated, but you haven't dealt with the trauma. If you had the welcome back program for him, he could have gone into something and did his life completely different. He's back on his feet now. He has like a whole towing company. Great. But for a lot of people, that's not the case. And instead of dealing with the root issue, we just want to cover up the symptoms or punish them. But it doesn't work because they're going to do the same thing because they were never taught how to actually deal with the root issue. So if we work with our kids the same way, don't focus on the punishment, focus on teaching habit forming skills. That'll benefit them. That's why you go into the military for discipline, but the military, they ain't going to just beat you with a belt. They don't do that. It's not ethical. They put you in situations where you have to do the same repetitive action over and over again until you get it. It's the skill that you get through habitation. Habitual pattern, not habitation. So that's what I got to say about that. So it's not, I'm sorry, I continue. It's never acceptable to put your hands on a kid because it's a remnant. It's a remnant of slavery. It's a remnant of serfdom. It is not unique to our people. African people, indigenous people, Asian, they did not do that pre-colonization. That was something that was created in the European continent as far back as the Agoge with the Spartans, where they would abuse their children. They were strong, they were warriors because they were always traumatized. You get a 7-year-old and you put him in a survival situation for 30 plus years of his life. Yes, he's going to be an amazing warrior because he has to be to survive. However, we're not in ancient Rome. We're not in serfdom Europe. We're in 2023. We're not on the plantation no more. We can leave that mess behind. That slave mentality, and it worked for what it was for keeping us alive at the time because we had to comply. We don't have to live like that anymore. We can teach kids emotional intelligence and effective communication, and that'll cover a lot of the stuff that we're upset about.
I like that. I was gonna say add another question we didn't go over earlier. My personal opinion, I feel like this younger generation is very disrespectful. But I believe that's because a lot of parents our age are trying to be their kids' friends before being their parents. How you feel about that?
I believe it's a combination of that, but also what do we define as disrespect?
That's true.
And then more to the right, and then more to the point, why are we so upset about respect from a little kid? Because it goes into before, I can take a child and physically yeet them across the room. That's not, a kid called me Goofy today, called me Mr. Goofy. I just looked at it and I was like, now you know that's not my name. And she's just giggling, laughing. I'm like, what's my name? Mr. H. Good. That's how we talk to me. That's how you talk to adults. They're going to be, what it really is a lot of parents are permissive. Even in their authoritarianism, they're very permissive. And kids are going to naturally push boundaries because that's how they know they're safe. And if a lot of parents get to the point where they either overreact or they underreact instead of dealing with it correctly, the kids are going to go all over the place. They're going to be disrespectful. Either you can have your fist down on them all the time and then they rebel, or you let them do whatever and they disrespect you. There's another way. How are you supposed to speak to me? This is how you speak to me since you don't know. I am dad. You talk to me as dad. I treat you with respect. You treat me with respect. So how do you ask for what you want? Good. Thank you so much. This is how I ask you. It's modeling what respect looks like to everybody, especially in front of your child, but it's also respecting your child. It's respecting their privacy. It's respecting their view of something because they don't know. And so you got to respect it until you can explain it to them and persuade them differently. And you got to respect their autonomy. They're not you. They're a part of you, but they're not you. So they're going to think as they want to think. They're going to do as they want to do. You just teach them the skills to do it correctly. So disrespect for me, a lot of kids are disrespectful. They're definitely disrespectful in middle school. They will say some out of pocket stuff. However, the kids that are out of pocket to me, I just quickly put them back in check. But like, hey, that's out of pocket. That's not how we talk to me. What's another way that you can say what you need to say without being disrespectful to me? Because I'm not disrespectful to you. They switch it really quickly because they understand that.
I like that. All right, and so you have a book out. This is Parenting. Congratulations on that. When did you first decide you wanted to write a book? And can you give us some insight on what that book is about and where can it be purchased?
Yes, so I started writing the book. It was actually going to be an introduction to a course that I was doing at the time. And I got so wrapped up in the book because I wanted the book to be good, but I also wanted it to be written so that anybody can understand it. The average American has a 7th grade reading comprehension level, so I tried to make it at that level. Excuse me. And the book is just basically about understanding the basic principles of authoritative parenting, or gentle parenting, as we call it. A lot of people think that it's talking to your kid like, oh, little Billy, you need to stop doing that. Oh my, I'm going to count to 3. You better stop. No, that's not gentle parenting. Gentle parenting is, hey, I know that you want to play with this. I love that you want to play with that. However, this is very expensive, so I'm taking that from you. It's off limits. You're not touching it anymore. We're going to go this way. Come on. Yes. Or it's, you did X, Y, and Z at school today. That's not what we do. From now on, you're not having A, B, and C. And we're going to talk about what you did, and we're going to focus on how we can fix it in the future. And then we practice what that looks like over the next few days until I know that you got the skill down pat. It's really just teaching. And so you can purchase the book. If you type in "This is Parenting" on Google, it's the first thing that pops up. But you can also go to the book patch, type it in, "This is Parenting," and it'll come up there. It's going to be on other platforms soon. I'm working on doing doing an audio book, but that's kind of in the process. I have ADHD, so I'm all over the place.
That's awesome, man. I love that, man. I love it. That's what's up. You said so that second book you're working on is an audio book, you said, right?
Actually, no, the second, so it's going to be an audio book for the first book. I'm working on the second book.
Okay. Let's see. When can we expect for your second book to be out? And can you give us some insight on that?
Yes, I can give you a little bit of insight on it. When it's going to be out, hopefully to have it by the end of this year, maybe a little bit longer because it's going to be more intensive. This is going to be a bigger book that's going to be talking about, it's really going to be talking about different systems of oppression for children, like not for children, but the systems of oppression that target children specifically. So we're going to be talking about the home. We're going to be talking about school. We're going to be talking about the judicial system, but we're also going to be talking about things of religion. Like I said, my background, my first year of teaching, I was a Bible teacher. I speak Hebrew and all that stuff. And one of the main things is a lot of people like to use the scripture as validation for beating their kids. But as somebody who speaks biblical Hebrew, who understands Koine Greek, as somebody who dives into the Midrash, one thing I know is that what we think we know isn't it. There's no scripture that condones hitting a child. All the scripture that we see is about disciplining a teenager of military age who we would consider an adult. And the ironic part is if you put your hands on anybody over 13, that's considered assault in the Mosaic law, which means you would be getting a penalty. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm also going to be talking about mental health with it, like how a lot of people view God through the lens of their trauma. So whatever your parents say, basically your parent is your first God. And so a lot of people view God by how they see their parent. So I'll be talking about that. I'll be talking about how the judicial system will unnecessarily target kids and give them like way severe punishments that they wouldn't even give adults. I'll be talking about how the school system is a lead up to prison and how a lot of the practices that they have are just inefficient. And I'll be talking about how we can all reverse and change that. So it's gonna be a really big book.
All right, I have one more question, and we're gonna end this. But before I even ask that, I feel like we should do a part 2 in the near future because there's a lot more we could touch on. Like I said, there's always room for us parents to grow. Like I was telling them when you walked off, I didn't get you on here so you could preach to everybody. It's including me. You know what I mean? Because as a parent, I know I need help. There's some things I could change, and it takes a village. And I definitely think we should do a part 2 in the near future. But in saying that, last question. I'm all about promoting small businesses. I do small business episodes. So you have a small business called Massive Video LLC. Let's talk about that. Tell the people what it's about.
Massive Video LLC. So basically, this is my umbrella business for many different projects that have mainly tutoring services, but also parenting, consulting, vocal lessons. I'm actually working with a kid right now. God, this boy is so talented. It's ridiculous. So I tutor him with vocal lessons. I tutor students. I do parenting consulting. So it's kind of all in one. So if parents call me and they're like, hey, my kid is doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm trying not to throw him through a wall, please help. I got you. We get on a Zoom call, or I can go in person and we have the conversation. We figure out what's going on and we deal with the behavior right there. If there are issues with tutoring, my kid doesn't understand something and I'm not good at math and we're getting frustrated and I want to throw his notebook through the wall, that's when I come in. I'm like, hey, let me help you with this and blah, 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 blah.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. We definitely need more brothers like you in this world, for real. Nothing but the utmost respect, for real, for real. Like I said, hopefully we can get you back on, in the next few weeks or so, and do a part 2, man, because there's a lot more we need to learn. But in saying that,
good. I'm happy for it.
It was an honor to have you. It really was, man. It was an honor to have you, man. It's just crazy, the power of the internet, man. And we here together.
I love it.
Saying that, anything else you want to say before we end this?
Everybody listen, if you don't like what your parents did, do something different. Your life is in your hands. Your children, they trust you. Don't abuse their trust. Don't wind up in a nursing home.
I hear that. Man, once again, it was an honor having you, brother. I appreciate everything. For everybody watching, as everybody's going to watch in the future, man, this is what we do. It's all about positivity and unity. And saying that,
also subscribe to my YouTube.
Subscribe. Go ahead, give your YouTube. I actually subscribe to yours so I can put it in. Tell me YouTube, and then I'll put it in the comments also. The Indomitable Black Man. INDOMITABLE. TikTok. Same thing. _Indomitable _ Black Man. Man, y'all follow him on TikTok. Oh my goodness, this man is amazing. Thank you. But man, I appreciate having you. We're gonna end it here. Episode 7. We are done. See you guys next time. We out. God bless.